In the year 1200, as dawn breaks over the English countryside, we find ourselves transported to a world where life moved to entirely different rhythms than our modern existence. The medieval period, spanning roughly from the 5th to the 15th centuries, created a tapestry of human experience vastly different from anything we know today. Women in this era inhabited a world of profound constraints and unexpected opportunities, where their daily existence was shaped by forces both social and divine, earthly and eternal. The medieval landscape stretched before us like a living manuscript, painted in hues of green fields, stone castles, and wooden villages connected by winding dirt roads. In this world, the concept of individual rights as we understand them today simply did not exist. Society was structured around feudalism, a complex system of land ownership and personal obligations that bound people to their social positions with threads as strong as iron chains, yet sometimes as flexible as silk ribbons. Women of the medieval period found themselves navigating a world where their value was often measured in terms of their relationships to men, as daughters, wives, mothers, or members of religious communities. Yet within these seemingly restrictive boundaries, countless women carved out spaces of influence, creativity, and even power that would surprise modern observers who imagine medieval life as uniformly oppressive. The air in medieval England carried scents unknown to our modern nostrils, the smoke of wood fires, the earthy aroma of unwashed bodies and natural materials, the sweet fragrance of herbs drying in cottage rafters, and the ever-present smell of animals that shared close quarters with human families. These sensory experiences formed the backdrop against which medieval women lived their entire lives, creating a world that was simultaneously harsh and deeply connected to natural rhythms. In the great stone castles that dotted the landscape, noble women lived lives of relative comfort but absolute dependence. Their days were spent in chambers lit by flickering candles, where tapestries attempted to keep out the cold that seeped through massive stone walls. These women wore woolen gowns in rich colors, deep blues dyed with woad, reds from madder root, and yellows from saffron, garments that took countless hours to create and represented enormous investments of time and skill. The sound of their daily existence included the clip-clop of horses on cobblestones, the creak of wooden wheels on carts, the calls of merchants in market squares, and the ever-present ringing of church bells that marked not just the hours but the rhythm of spiritual life that governed all medieval existence. These women lived in a world where the boundary between earthly and heavenly concerns was far thinner than in our secular age. For peasant women, who comprised the vast majority of the female population, life unfolded in small villages where everyone knew everyone else's business, where privacy was a luxury that simply did not exist, and where survival depended on the cooperation of the entire community. Their homes were simple structures of wood, mud, and thatch, usually consisting of just one or two rooms where entire families lived alongside their precious livestock. The medieval woman's education, when it existed at all, focused on practical skills and religious instruction. Reading and writing were luxuries reserved for the nobility and the religious, though even many noble women remained illiterate throughout their lives. Instead, their education centered on the complex skills needed to manage households, preserve food, create textiles, and maintain the delicate social relationships that could mean the difference between prosperity and starvation. In the religious houses that provided one of the few alternatives to marriage for medieval women, life followed different rhythms altogether. Here, behind walls of stone and tradition, women found opportunities for learning, spiritual development, and even intellectual achievement that were largely denied to their secular sisters. The abbey bells marked hours of prayer that structured days devoted to contemplation, study, and service in ways that offered dignity and purpose beyond the biological imperatives of childbearing and child-rearing. The clothing of medieval women tells its own story of constraint and adaptation. Married women covered their hair completely, as uncovered hair was considered sensual and inappropriate for respectable wives. Young unmarried women might wear their hair uncovered, but always arranged in ways that demonstrated their family's status and their own virtue. These hair coverings, wimples, barbettes, and veils, created a visual language that immediately communicated a woman's place in the social order. Medieval medicine, such as it was, viewed women's bodies as fundamentally different from and inferior to men's bodies. The prevailing medical theory held that women were essentially imperfect men, cooler and moister in temperament, subject to the wandering of the womb that could cause all manner of physical and mental ailments. This medical understanding, derived from ancient Greek sources and filtered through Christian theology, provided a scientific justification for women's subordinate social position. Food preparation occupied enormous portions of medieval women's time and energy. Without refrigeration, preservation techniques like salting, smoking, and drying required constant attention and considerable skill. Women spent their days grinding grain by hand, tending fires that could never be allowed to die out completely, and managing the complex processes of brewing, baking, and food storage that kept their families alive through long winters and periodic famines. The legal status of medieval women varied considerably depending on their social class and marital status, but in general, they possessed few rights that we would recognize today. Upon marriage, a woman's property became her husband's property, and her legal identity was subsumed into his. Yet even within these constraints, women found ways to exercise influence and agency, often through informal networks of family relationships and religious connections that operated parallel to the formal structures of power. As we settle into our contemplation of these women's lives, we begin to understand that their world was one of profound interconnectedness, where individual survival depended absolutely on community cooperation, where spiritual and material concerns were inseparably intertwined, and where the rhythms of natural seasons governed human activity in ways that created deep relationships with the natural world that modern people can barely imagine. As the first pale light of dawn creeps through the wooden shutters of our medieval dwelling, we find ourselves awakening in a world where the concept of privacy is as foreign as the idea of hot running water. The medieval woman's day begins not with an alarm clock, but with the natural rhythms of light and darkness that have governed human existence since the beginning of time. This awakening is gentle, gradual, and deeply connected to the natural world in ways that our modern lives have largely forgotten. In the shared sleeping chamber, multiple family members rest together under heavy woolen blankets and furs, their breath visible in the cool morning air. The medieval bedroom is not the private sanctuary we know today, but a communal space where children, adults, and sometimes even trusted servants share warmth and security. The bed itself is a massive wooden frame supporting a mattress of straw or feathers, elevated off the cold stone or dirt floor to provide some protection from dampness and drafts. Our medieval woman stirs slowly, her body naturally responding to the growing light that filters through gaps in the wooden shutters. There is no jarring electronic sound to disturb her emerging consciousness, no urgent digital displays demanding immediate attention. Instead, she awakens to the gentle sounds of the natural world, birds beginning their morning songs, the distant lowing of cattle, the soft whisper of wind through thatched roofs, and perhaps the quiet murmur of other family members beginning to stir. The process of rising from bed in medieval times is a deliberate, careful affair. The floor is cold beneath bare feet, and the morning air holds a chill that modern central heating has made us forget. Our woman reaches first for her shift, the long linen undergarment that serves as the foundation of all medieval clothing. This garment, worn next to the skin, might be the only piece of clothing she owns that is washed with any regularity, and even then, washing means a laborious process involving hauling water, heating it over wood fires, and scrubbing with harsh lye soap made from ashes. As she moves through the early morning routine, every action is performed with the careful economy of someone who understands that energy and resources must be conserved for the long day ahead. There is no electric lighting to banish the pre-dawn darkness, so she moves carefully, feeling her way to the wooden chest where her daily clothing is stored. The clothing she selects tells the story of her social position as clearly as any written document: the quality of the fabric, the richness of any dyes, the presence or absence of decorative elements all communicate her family's wealth and status to anyone who observes her. The medieval woman's morning ablutions are simple by our standards, yet they follow established patterns that connect her to centuries of tradition. Water for washing must be drawn from a well or stream, carried in heavy wooden or ceramic containers, and often warmed over the cooking fire. The act of washing faces and hands is both practical hygiene and spiritual preparation, as cleanliness is considered next to godliness in the Christian worldview that dominates medieval life. As our woman begins to dress, each layer of clothing serves specific practical and social functions. Over her linen shift goes the gown or kirtle, carefully arranged to demonstrate proper modesty while allowing for the day's work. If she is married, her hair must be completely covered, first braided or pinned up, then concealed beneath veils or head coverings that announce her married status to all who see her. This covering of hair is not merely fashion but moral requirement, based on Christian teachings about women's proper appearance in public. The sounds of the household beginning to wake create a gentle symphony of domestic life. Children's voices blend with adult conversations, the clatter of wooden bowls and spoons, the scrape of chairs on stone floors, and the constant background noise of animals, chickens clucking in their pen, pigs grunting in their sty, a cow lowing in anticipation of milking. These sounds create an acoustic environment completely different from our modern world, where natural and human sounds blend without the intrusion of mechanical noise. Morning hunger is a constant companion in medieval life, where the previous day's final meal was eaten many hours ago and where food security is never guaranteed. Our woman's stomach may grumble as she begins to think about the day's first meal, but breakfast as we know it does not exist in medieval culture. Instead, people typically eat two main meals, dinner in late morning or early afternoon, and supper in the evening. However, a piece of bread, perhaps with some ale or weak beer, might serve to quiet morning hunger. The morning light reveals the textures and materials of medieval life in ways that artificial lighting cannot capture. Wooden surfaces, worn smooth by countless hands, gleam with the patina of age and use. Stone walls show the marks of the craftsmen who shaped them, and textiles display the subtle variations that mark handmade objects. Everything in this environment bears the evidence of human creation and use, connecting our woman to the long chain of human labor and skill that makes her daily life possible. As she moves through her morning routine, our medieval woman is acutely aware of the weather, since her comfort and even survival may depend on understanding and preparing for the day's conditions. She observes the quality of light, the movement of clouds, the direction of wind, and countless other natural signs that help her predict what the day may bring. This intimate relationship with natural phenomena is a form of knowledge that modern people have largely lost, replaced by weather forecasts and climate-controlled environments. The morning routine also includes important spiritual elements, as medieval life is thoroughly integrated with Christian religious observance. Our woman likely begins her day with private prayer, perhaps kneeling on the cold floor beside her bed to offer thanks for surviving another night and requesting divine protection for the day ahead. These prayers are not merely ritual observances but genuine communications with the divine presence that medieval people believed surrounded and permeated every aspect of existence. The sense of morning in medieval life create their own distinctive atmosphere, with smoke from cooking fires beginning to be rebuilt from the previous day's embers, the earthy smell of thatched roofing and wooden walls, the aroma of herbs hanging in bundles from roof beams, and the ever-present smell of animals and human bodies in close proximity. These scents, while perhaps challenging to modern sensibilities, create a sensory environment that is rich, complex, and deeply connected to the natural world. As our woman prepares to face the day's challenges and opportunities, she does so with the quiet strength that comes from understanding her place in a stable, if demanding, social order. Her morning routine connects her not only to her immediate family and community but to the larger rhythms of seasonal change, religious observance, and social tradition that give meaning and structure to medieval life. As the morning light grows stronger and more golden, our medieval woman steps into the flowing rhythm of daily responsibilities that define her existence. The transition from private morning routine to public engagement with her world is marked not by the closing of a bedroom door, but by the gradual expansion of her awareness from personal preparation to family needs, community obligations, and the complex web of social relationships that govern medieval life. The medieval household operates as a small economic unit where every member, from the youngest child to the oldest grandparent, has specific roles and responsibilities that contribute to the family's survival and prosperity. Our woman's position within this economic unit is central and multifaceted. She is simultaneously manager, worker, teacher, and spiritual guide, expected to oversee complex domestic operations while maintaining the social relationships that keep her family integrated into the larger community. Her first major responsibility of the day involves the management of food resources and the preparation of the main meal that will sustain her family through the long hours of physical labor that lie ahead. In a world without refrigeration, every day brings new challenges in food preservation, preparation, and distribution. She must assess what remains from yesterday's provisions, decide what can be safely consumed today, and plan for tomorrow's needs while working within the constraints of seasonal availability and family resources. The process of meal preparation in medieval times requires skills and knowledge that modern people can barely comprehend. Our woman must understand the complex chemistry of fermentation that turns grain into bread and fruit into ale. She must know how to judge the readiness of preserved meats, how to combine limited ingredients to create nutritious and palatable meals, and how to stretch scarce resources during times of shortage without compromising her family's health and strength. The medieval kitchen, if it can be called that, is typically a central hearth around which much of family life revolves. This open fire serves simultaneously for cooking, heating, and light, creating a focal point that draws family members together throughout the day. Our woman tends this fire with the careful attention of someone who understands that letting it die completely means hours of laborious work to restart it, since matches do not exist and creating fire requires skill, patience, and the right materials. As she works, our woman is constantly aware of the social expectations that govern her behavior and appearance. Medieval society operates according to clearly defined hierarchies and relationships, and a woman's reputation, which directly affects her family's position in the community, depends on her careful observation of social proprieties. She must be modest in dress and demeanor, diligent in her domestic duties, respectful to her superiors, kind to her inferiors, and always mindful of her role as a representative of her family's honor and standing. The clothing she wears while working represents a careful balance between practicality and social appropriateness. Her garments must allow for the physical demands of domestic labor while still demonstrating proper respect for social conventions. The fabrics are typically wool or linen, materials that can withstand hard use but that also require considerable time and skill to produce. Every thread in her clothing represents hours of human labor, from the tending of sheep or flax plants through the complex processes of spinning, weaving, and sewing that transform raw materials into finished garments. The sounds that surround our woman as she works create a rich auditory environment that tells the story of a community waking up and beginning its daily activities. From neighboring houses come similar sounds of domestic activity, the grinding of grain, the chopping of wood, the calling of voices coordinating family activities. These sounds create a sense of shared purpose and mutual support that helps individual families feel connected to the larger community even when they are working within their own domestic spaces. Water management represents one of the most time-consuming and physically demanding aspects of our woman's daily routine. Every drop of water used in her household must be carried from its source, perhaps a well in the village center, maybe a stream at some distance from the house. This water serves multiple purposes: cooking, cleaning, drinking, and the various household industries like brewing and textile work that contribute to family subsistence. The physical effort required to haul water in heavy containers means that every use must be carefully considered and that conservation is a constant necessity. The management of household textiles occupies enormous amounts of our woman's time and attention. In an era when all cloth is produced by hand, clothing and household linens represent major investments of time, skill, and resources. She must constantly monitor the condition of these valuable items, planning repairs before small problems become major losses, and coordinating the complex processes of cleaning and maintenance that keep textiles serviceable for as long as possible. Her responsibilities extend beyond immediate family needs to include various community obligations that help maintain the social fabric of medieval village life. She may be expected to assist neighbors during childbirth, to contribute to community religious observances, to participate in seasonal festivals and celebrations, and to help during emergencies like fires or serious illnesses. These obligations are not optional social activities but essential components of the mutual support systems that enable medieval communities to survive and prosper. The medieval woman's morning work also includes the care and training of children, who are not viewed as precious individuals to be protected from adult responsibilities but as future contributors to family welfare who must learn essential skills as early as possible. Our woman teaches her daughters the complex skills of domestic management while ensuring that her sons understand their future roles as providers and protectors. This education happens not through formal instruction but through constant participation in daily activities that gradually build competence and understanding. As the morning progresses, our woman becomes increasingly aware of the seasonal rhythms that govern all aspects of medieval life. Her activities today are influenced by what season it is, what weather patterns are developing, and what agricultural activities are taking place in the surrounding fields. Medieval life operates according to natural cycles that modern people have largely forgotten, creating a deep connection between human activity and natural processes that influences every decision and every action. The physical demands of medieval domestic work require strength, endurance, and resilience that modern conveniences have made unnecessary for most people today. Our woman's hands are calloused from countless hours of grinding grain, carrying water, tending fires, and working with coarse textiles. Her back aches from bending over low work surfaces, her feet are tough from walking on uneven floors and rough ground, and her entire body bears the marks of a life spent in constant physical activity. Yet within these demanding circumstances, our woman finds moments of satisfaction and even joy. The successful completion of difficult tasks, the sight of her family well-fed and properly clothed, the approval of neighbors and community members, these experiences provide a sense of accomplishment and purpose that validates her efforts and strengthens her determination to continue meeting the challenges that each new day brings. As the morning moves toward midday, our medieval woman finds herself surrounded by the gentle integration of spiritual and practical concerns that characterizes every aspect of medieval life. In this era, there is no sharp division between the sacred and the secular, between religious observance and daily work. Instead, spiritual awareness flows through every activity like an underground stream, sometimes visible on the surface, sometimes hidden but always present, nourishing and shaping the landscape of human experience. The medieval worldview perceives divine presence in every aspect of creation, from the largest cosmic movements to the smallest domestic activities. Our woman approaches her daily tasks with an awareness that she is participating in a sacred order that encompasses all of existence. The bread she kneads, the fire she tends, the children she nurtures, all of these activities are understood as forms of service not only to her family but to the divine plan that governs the universe. Prayer in medieval life is not limited to formal church services or designated holy hours, but flows naturally through the entire day in spontaneous expressions of gratitude, requests for assistance, and acknowledgments of divine oversight. As our woman works, she might offer brief prayers for the success of her efforts, thanksgiving for the resources available to her, or petitions for the health and safety of her loved ones. These prayers are as natural as breathing, woven seamlessly into the fabric of activity and thought. The physical environment of her home reflects this integration of spiritual and practical concerns. Religious images and symbols are not decorative additions to an otherwise secular space, but integral elements of a living environment designed to remind its inhabitants constantly of their relationship to divine reality. A simple wooden cross on the wall, a small shrine in the corner of the main room, or religious texts carefully preserved and occasionally consulted, these elements create a sacred geography that transforms domestic space into holy ground. The rhythm of her work is influenced by the liturgical calendar that structures medieval time according to religious rather than purely secular considerations. Our woman is aware that today falls within a particular season of the church year, that certain saints are being commemorated, and that specific spiritual themes are being emphasized in the religious life of her community. This awareness shapes not only when and how she prays, but also what food she prepares, what activities she pursues, and how she approaches the emotional and spiritual challenges of daily life. The concept of work itself holds different meaning in medieval culture than in our modern understanding. Labor is not viewed primarily as a means of economic advancement or personal fulfillment, but as a form of participation in the divine order of creation. Our woman understands her domestic activities as continuation of the creative work that brought the universe into existence and continues to sustain it. Through her labor, she cooperates with divine providence in maintaining the conditions necessary for human flourishing. The seasonal cycle that governs agricultural life also provides a spiritual framework for understanding the deeper rhythms of existence. Our woman sees in the annual patterns of planting, growth, harvest, and rest a reflection of spiritual truths about death and resurrection, patience and fulfillment, struggle and reward. The natural world serves as a constant teacher, offering lessons about divine love, providence, and the proper ordering of human priorities. Community religious observances provide regular opportunities for our woman to step away from the immediate pressures of domestic responsibility and to locate her individual struggles within the larger context of shared faith and mutual support. The weekly cycle of church services, the seasonal celebrations of major religious festivals, and the occasional special observances marking important community events all serve to strengthen the bonds that hold medieval society together and to remind individuals of their place in the larger human story. The education of children includes not only practical skills necessary for survival and prosperity, but also spiritual formation designed to help them understand their relationship to divine reality and their responsibilities to the community of faith. Our woman teaches her children not only how to work effectively, but also how to pray meaningfully, how to understand the religious stories and symbols that give meaning to medieval life, and how to participate appropriately in the religious activities that mark the passage of time and the celebration of significant events. The medieval understanding of the human person emphasizes the integration of body and soul in ways that make spiritual health inseparable from physical well-being. Our woman attends not only to the material needs of her family but also to their spiritual development, understanding that true prosperity requires attention to both dimensions of human existence. She seeks to create an environment in her home that nourishes both body and soul, providing not only physical sustenance but also the emotional and spiritual resources necessary for human flourishing. The practice of charity represents one of the primary ways in which spiritual principles are enacted in daily life. Despite her own family's limited resources, our woman is expected to share what she can with those in greater need, perhaps offering food to hungry travelers, providing assistance to sick neighbors, or contributing to community efforts to support widows and orphans. These charitable activities are understood not as optional acts of kindness but as religious obligations that reflect divine love and demonstrate genuine faith. The medieval woman's relationship to the natural world is deeply influenced by spiritual understanding that sees all of creation as a manifestation of divine glory and a source of spiritual instruction. The changing seasons, the behavior of animals, the patterns of weather, the cycles of plant growth, all of these natural phenomena are read as a kind of scripture that reveals divine character and divine intentions for human life. Our woman observes the natural world with attention and reverence, seeking to understand not only its practical implications but also its spiritual significance. The experience of suffering, which is inevitable in medieval life, is understood within a spiritual framework that gives meaning to hardship and provides resources for endurance. Our woman does not expect life to be easy or comfortable, but she does expect it to be meaningful. When difficulties arise, illness, crop failure, conflict, loss, she has access to spiritual resources that help her understand these experiences as opportunities for spiritual growth, occasions for demonstrating faith, and chances to participate more fully in the divine plan for human redemption. The daily routine of domestic work provides countless opportunities for meditation and spiritual reflection. The repetitive activities that occupy so much of our woman's time, grinding grain, spinning thread, tending fires, preparing food, create spaces for contemplation where the mind can rest in awareness of divine presence while the hands continue their necessary work. This integration of prayer and labor creates a form of lived spirituality that sanctifies ordinary activities and transforms routine tasks into opportunities for spiritual development. As midday approaches, our woman finds herself surrounded by the quiet evidence of divine providence in the successful completion of morning tasks, the health and contentment of her family, and the continuing stability of the community relationships that make her life possible. She pauses for a moment of gratitude, acknowledging the divine source of all her blessings and preparing her heart for whatever challenges and opportunities the afternoon may bring. As the sun reaches its highest point in the medieval sky, casting strong shadows and warm light through the wooden shutters of our contemplative space, we find our medieval woman settling into the deeply meditative rhythm of afternoon work. The transition from morning urgency to afternoon steadiness marks a natural shift in the energy of the day, a movement from the quick preparations necessary to launch daily activities toward the sustained, careful attention required for the complex tasks that will occupy the remaining daylight hours. The afternoon light in medieval times possesses a quality that modern people, accustomed to artificial illumination, can barely imagine. This natural light changes throughout the day, creating an ever-shifting environment that influences mood, perception, and the very quality of consciousness. Our woman works within this living light, her activities shaped by the gradually changing illumination that moves across her workspace like a gentle, invisible presence guiding her attention and focusing her awareness. The repetitive tasks that fill her afternoon hours, spinning thread, preparing food, mending clothing, organizing household resources, create opportunities for the kind of meditative awareness that our busy modern lives rarely allow. Each motion of her hands becomes a prayer, each completed task a small offering of gratitude, each moment of focused attention a step deeper into the peaceful center of her being where divine presence can be experienced directly and immediately. The spinning wheel, if she is fortunate enough to own one, provides a perfect metaphor for the spiritual dimensions of daily work. The raw wool or flax is transformed through patient, careful attention into thread that will eventually become cloth that will serve her family's needs for warmth, modesty, and social appropriateness. This transformation requires skill, attention, and time, qualities that mirror the spiritual process by which human souls are gradually refined through patient acceptance of daily challenges and faithful attention to ordinary responsibilities. The rhythmic motion of spinning creates a natural meditation that allows our woman's mind to settle into deeper states of peace and awareness. The wheel turns, the thread emerges, and consciousness gradually releases its grip on worry, planning, and problem-solving to rest in the simple presence of the moment. This is not escape from responsibility but rather a deeper entry into responsibility, an approach to work that transforms necessity into opportunity and burden into blessing. The afternoon heat, even in northern climates like medieval England, brings a different quality to indoor spaces. The air becomes warmer, sometimes still, creating an atmosphere that encourages slower movement and deeper breathing. Our woman adjusts her pace to match these natural rhythms, understanding intuitively that fighting against the conditions of the day creates unnecessary tension while flowing with them opens possibilities for grace and ease even in the midst of demanding work. The preparation of food for the evening meal requires the kind of advanced planning and sustained attention that naturally leads to contemplative awareness. Each ingredient must be considered not only for its nutritional value but also for its cost, its availability, its compatibility with other ingredients, and its appropriateness for the season and the family's current circumstances. This complex decision-making process, repeated daily, develops a kind of practical wisdom that extends far beyond culinary skills into deeper understanding of how to live skillfully within limitations while maintaining hope and creativity. The medieval woman's afternoon work often includes textile production, not only spinning but also weaving, dyeing, and sewing activities that require enormous investments of time and attention. These activities connect her to generations of women who have performed similar tasks, creating a sense of continuity and tradition that places her individual efforts within a larger human story. The cloth she creates with her own hands will clothe her family, protect them from the elements, and represent their social position to the community, making her work both practical necessity and artistic expression. The care of household tools and equipment occupies significant attention during these afternoon hours. In a world where everything must be created by hand and where replacement of damaged items requires considerable time and expense, the maintenance of tools becomes a form of spiritual practice. Our woman cleans and repairs her spinning wheel, sharpens her knives, mends her baskets, and tends to the countless small implements that make her work possible. This attention to tools reflects a deeper understanding of the interdependence that characterizes all aspects of medieval life. The sounds of the afternoon create their own form of music that accompanies our woman's work. The rhythmic turning of the spinning wheel blends with the distant sounds of agricultural work in surrounding fields, the calls of birds, the occasional passage of travelers on nearby roads, and the quiet conversations of family members engaged in their own activities. This acoustic environment supports rather than distracts from meditative awareness, creating a soundscape that encourages deeper states of consciousness. The medieval understanding of time during these afternoon hours differs fundamentally from our modern relationship to temporal measurement. There are no clocks to segment the hours into precise intervals, no schedules to impose artificial urgency on natural rhythms. Instead, time flows according to the progress of work, the movement of light, the needs of family members, and the subtle inner sense of appropriate timing that develops through years of attention to natural and social rhythms. The practice of hospitality represents one of the most important spiritual disciplines of medieval life, and the afternoon hours often bring opportunities for our woman to exercise this virtue. Travelers, neighbors, or family members from other households may arrive seeking food, shelter, assistance, or simply companionship. Our woman's response to these unexpected visitors reflects her understanding of divine presence in human relationships and her commitment to the spiritual principle that loving service to others represents the most direct path to spiritual development. The integration of child care into afternoon work provides constant opportunities for teaching and learning that benefit both mother and children. As our woman works, she explains her activities to young daughters who will eventually need these same skills, demonstrates techniques that require years to master, and creates learning environments that naturally develop the qualities of attention, patience, and skill that will serve the children throughout their lives. This educational process happens not through formal instruction but through the gradual absorption of knowledge that occurs when children participate fully in adult activities. The afternoon light begins its gradual shift toward evening, creating subtle changes in the quality of illumination that encourage deeper introspection and spiritual awareness. Our woman becomes increasingly conscious of the divine presence that has accompanied her throughout the day, supporting her efforts, blessing her family, and maintaining the natural and social order that makes her life possible. This growing awareness prepares her heart for the evening activities that will complete her daily cycle of work and rest. The physical sensations of sustained work, the slight ache in her shoulders from leaning over her tasks, the calluses on her hands from handling rough materials, the gentle fatigue that accumulates through hours of focused activity, become opportunities for practicing acceptance and gratitude rather than sources of complaint or distraction. Our woman understands these physical experiences as natural consequences of meaningful work and as reminders of the embodied nature of human existence that connects her to all other living beings. As the afternoon draws toward evening, our woman finds herself surrounded by the tangible evidence of productive labor, thread spun, food prepared, household tasks completed, family needs met. Yet she understands that the true value of her work extends far beyond these visible accomplishments to include the spiritual development that occurs through patient acceptance of daily responsibilities and faithful attention to the present moment where divine grace is always available to those who have learned to recognize and receive it. As the afternoon light begins its gentle transformation toward evening, our medieval woman becomes aware of the subtle shift in energy that signals the approaching end of the active day. The quality of light streaming through the wooden shutters takes on a golden warmth that seems to embrace everything it touches, creating an atmosphere of peaceful completion that invites reflection on the day's accomplishments and preparation for the restful hours that lie ahead. The evening gathering of family members represents one of the most cherished aspects of medieval daily life, a time when the scattered activities of the day converge into shared presence and mutual support. Our woman begins to prepare not only the physical environment for this gathering but also her own heart and mind for the transition from individual focus to communal awareness. This preparation involves both practical activities, arranging seating, organizing the space, planning the evening meal, and spiritual preparation that opens her to the deeper satisfaction that comes from successful completion of daily responsibilities. The lighting of additional candles or oil lamps marks the formal beginning of evening time, a ritual that acknowledges the growing darkness while creating a warm, intimate environment that draws family members together around the central hearth. The flickering light of these flames creates dancing shadows on stone walls and wooden beams, transforming the practical workspace of day into a more mystical environment that seems specially designed for conversation, storytelling, and the sharing of thoughts and feelings that bind families together across generations. The preparation of the evening meal involves not only the practical work of cooking but also the careful attention to creating an experience that nourishes both body and soul. Our woman selects ingredients not only for their nutritional value but also for their ability to create comfort and satisfaction after a long day of labor. The aromas that fill the house as food cooks, perhaps bread baking, vegetables simmering, herbs releasing their fragrance, create an olfactory environment that signals safety, abundance, and the loving care that makes a house into a home. The gradual return of family members from their various daytime activities creates a natural rhythm of reunion that builds excitement and anticipation throughout the afternoon hours. Children return from their work or play, bringing stories of their adventures and discoveries. Adult family members complete their tasks and turn their attention toward home and the satisfying conclusion of another day's work. Each arrival adds to the growing sense of completeness that characterizes the evening gathering. The medieval understanding of hospitality extends beyond family members to include neighbors, travelers, and anyone else who might need food, shelter, or companionship as darkness approaches. Our woman remains alert to opportunities for practicing this virtue, understanding that welcoming strangers into her home represents not only a social obligation but also a spiritual practice that recognizes divine presence in all human beings who cross her threshold seeking assistance or community. The conversations that emerge during these evening hours differ qualitatively from the quick exchanges of information that characterize daytime communication. With the pressure of urgent tasks removed and with comfortable seating around the warm hearth, family members have opportunity for the kind of deeper sharing that builds emotional intimacy and transmits cultural values from one generation to the next. Stories are told, experiences are shared, questions are asked and answered, and the bonds of family relationship are strengthened through the simple act of giving each other undivided attention. The role of storytelling in medieval evening life cannot be overstated. In a largely illiterate culture, oral tradition serves as the primary means of transmitting not only family history but also cultural values, moral principles, and spiritual understanding. Our woman both tells and listens to stories that connect her family to their ancestors, their community, and their faith tradition. These stories provide entertainment, education, and inspiration, creating shared meaning that helps family members understand their place in the larger human story. The evening hours also provide opportunity for various forms of handwork that can be accomplished in the dim light of fire and candles. Our woman might continue with spinning, sewing, or other textile work while participating in family conversation. These activities serve multiple purposes. They make productive use of evening hours, they provide opportunities for teaching skills to children, and they create a meditative rhythm that supports rather than interferes with social interaction and spiritual reflection. The gradual approach of night brings awareness of the larger rhythms of time that govern human existence. Our woman becomes conscious not only of the end of this particular day but also of the seasonal cycle that slowly transforms the natural world, the lunar cycle that marks the passage of months, and the annual cycle of religious observances that give spiritual meaning to the passage of time. This awareness of multiple temporal rhythms creates a sense of perspective that helps place daily concerns within larger contexts of meaning and purpose. The evening meal, when it is finally served, becomes a celebration of the day's accomplishments and a thanksgiving for the provisions that sustain family life. The sharing of food represents not only nutritional necessity but also spiritual communion that binds family members together in mutual dependence and care. The blessing of food acknowledges divine providence while the sharing of the meal demonstrates human cooperation and love that make family life a reflection of divine love in human form. The physical comfort of evening rest begins to influence our woman's awareness as the day's accumulated fatigue makes itself known in her body. The hardness of wooden chairs becomes more apparent, the warmth of the fire becomes more welcome, and the prospect of eventually lying down for sleep becomes increasingly appealing. Yet this growing tiredness is not unpleasant but rather represents the natural completion of productive activity and the satisfying exhaustion that comes from meaningful work. The religious observances that conclude the day provide opportunities for expressing gratitude, seeking forgiveness for any failures or shortcomings, and placing trust in divine protection during the vulnerable hours of sleep. These prayers are not merely ritual obligations but genuine expressions of the spiritual awareness that has been developing throughout the day through attention to divine presence in all activities and relationships. The gradual dimming of lights and the banking of fires signal the approaching transition from active engagement with the world to passive rest and restoration. Our woman participates in these evening rituals with awareness that she is joining her daily rhythm to the larger rhythms of family, community, and cosmic order that provide stability and meaning for human existence. The approaching night represents not fearful darkness but welcome rest that prepares for tomorrow's opportunities to serve, love, and grow in wisdom and spiritual understanding. As conversations gradually quiet and family members begin to think about sleep, our woman finds herself surrounded by the satisfaction that comes from faithful completion of daily responsibilities and the peaceful anticipation of rest that will restore her energy for tomorrow's challenges and opportunities. The evening gathering has provided exactly what was needed, community, nourishment, and spiritual preparation for the mysterious experience of sleep that will soon transform her consciousness and prepare her for another day of meaningful participation in the ongoing creation of human love and divine service. As the evening activities draw to their natural conclusion and the household begins its transition toward the vulnerable hours of sleep, our medieval woman finds herself crossing the sacred threshold between conscious engagement with the world and the mysterious surrender of awareness that characterizes the night hours. This transition is not abrupt but gradual, marked by rituals and practices that prepare both body and soul for the profound experience of rest that will restore her energy and renew her spirit for tomorrow's opportunities. The process of preparing for sleep in medieval times involves careful attention to both practical necessities and spiritual responsibilities. The banking of fires requires skill and attention, since a fire that dies completely during the night means hours of difficult work to restart it in the morning, while a fire that is improperly banked creates danger of uncontrolled burning that could destroy home and family. Our woman performs this task with the reverent attention of someone who understands that fire represents not only practical necessity but also the divine light that illuminates human existence and provides warmth in a world that can be cold and challenging. The arrangement of sleeping spaces reflects the communal nature of medieval life, where privacy is a luxury that few can afford and where security depends on mutual protection and shared vigilance. Our woman helps arrange the bedding and sleeping places for all family members, ensuring that everyone has adequate warmth and comfort while maintaining the social proprieties that govern relationships between different family members and any guests who may be sharing the household's hospitality for the night. The lighting arrangements for night hours require careful planning and considerable skill. Some form of illumination must be maintained throughout the night for both practical and security reasons, yet candles and oil are expensive and must be used sparingly. Our woman arranges small lamps or carefully trimmed candles that will provide minimal light without excessive consumption of precious resources. This dim illumination creates an atmosphere that supports the gradual transition from full wakefulness to the deeper states of consciousness that precede sleep. The personal preparations for sleep involve their own rituals and observances that mark the transition from public to private awareness. Our woman carefully removes and arranges her outer garments, preserving them from unnecessary wear while ensuring that they will be readily available for morning use. The linen shift that she wears next to her skin serves as nighttime clothing, and the process of preparing for bed involves not undressing completely but rather removing the outer layers that marked her public presence during the day. The physical environment of sleep in medieval times creates conditions that modern people might find challenging but that actually support deeper states of rest and spiritual awareness. The darkness is more complete than anything experienced in our electrically illuminated world, creating an environment that naturally encourages the production of sleep hormones and the gradual slowing of mental activity. The silence is more profound, broken only by natural sounds that connect sleepers to the living world around them rather than distracting them with mechanical noise. The prayers that conclude the day represent not merely ritual observance but genuine spiritual preparation for the vulnerable state of sleep. Our woman offers thanksgiving for the day's blessings, seeks forgiveness for any failures or shortcomings in her service to family and community, and places herself and her loved ones under divine protection during the night hours. These prayers create a spiritual atmosphere that transforms sleep from mere physical necessity into an act of trust and surrender that reflects deep faith in divine providence and care. The medieval understanding of sleep differs significantly from our modern approach to rest and restoration. Sleep is viewed not as temporary unconsciousness but as a time when the soul is freed from the limitations of physical existence to commune more directly with divine reality. Dreams are understood as potential communications from the spiritual realm, and the experience of sleep itself is seen as a form of temporary death that foreshadows the final transition to eternal life while providing nightly practice in the art of surrender and trust. The sharing of sleeping spaces with family members creates an environment of mutual protection and comfort that supports deeper rest while maintaining social bonds even during unconscious hours. The warmth shared between bodies helps conserve heat in unheated buildings, while the presence of loved ones provides security against both physical dangers and the psychological vulnerabilities that can emerge during the night hours. This communal sleeping arrangement reflects the medieval understanding that human beings are fundamentally social creatures who thrive through cooperation and mutual support. The sounds of the night create their own form of lullaby that supports the transition to sleep. The settling sounds of the house as wood contracts in cooling air, the distant calls of night birds, the rustle of wind through thatched roofing, and the quiet breathing of family members combine to create an acoustic environment that is both comforting and conducive to rest. These natural sounds connect sleepers to the larger rhythms of the natural world while providing reassurance of safety and continuity. The temperature of sleeping spaces, while often cool by modern standards, actually supports deeper and more restful sleep than the overheated environments that many modern people create. The slight coolness encourages the body's natural tendency to lower its core temperature during sleep, while the heavy woolen blankets and shared body warmth provide sufficient comfort without creating the stuffiness that can interfere with sleep quality. The absence of artificial light during night hours allows for the natural production of melatonin and other sleep hormones that regulate healthy sleep cycles. Our woman's body responds to the growing darkness with gradual relaxation and the onset of natural drowsiness that makes the transition to sleep a gentle, organic process rather than the struggle that many modern people experience when trying to sleep in environments filled with artificial light and electronic stimulation. The spiritual dimensions of sleep preparation include not only formal prayers but also the cultivation of inner peace and trust that allows for complete surrender to the unconscious state. Our woman releases the concerns and responsibilities of the day, placing them in divine hands with confidence that tomorrow will bring both the challenges and the resources necessary to meet them. This act of spiritual surrender transforms sleep from anxious unconsciousness into peaceful rest that restores both body and spirit. The physical sensations of lying down after a day of constant activity bring their own form of relief and gratitude. The pressure is removed from feet that have carried her through countless steps, the weight is taken off shoulders that have borne heavy loads, and the entire body is allowed to relax into the supporting surface of the bed. This physical surrender mirrors the spiritual surrender that characterizes healthy sleep, creating a complete letting go that allows for deep restoration and renewal. The medieval woman's approach to sleep reflects a fundamental trust in the divine order that governs all existence. She does not worry excessively about what tomorrow may bring or regret what today has brought, but rather rests in the confidence that she has done her best with the resources and opportunities available to her. This trust creates the inner peace that is essential for deep, restorative sleep and that reflects spiritual maturity developed through years of faithful attention to daily responsibilities and divine relationship. As consciousness gradually dims and the transition to sleep becomes imminent, our woman finds herself surrounded by love, protected by faith, and supported by the same divine presence that has guided and sustained her throughout the day. The approaching sleep represents not loss of consciousness but transformation of consciousness, a daily journey into the mystery of rest that will restore her energy and prepare her spirit for tomorrow's opportunities to serve, love, and grow in wisdom and grace. As the final conscious thoughts fade away and our medieval woman settles into the profound embrace of sleep, she enters a realm of experience that represents one of the most mysterious and essential aspects of human existence. The transition from waking consciousness to deep sleep occurs not as an abrupt change but as a gentle flowing from one state of being to another, like a river gradually widening as it approaches the vast ocean of unconscious rest and restoration. The medieval understanding of sleep encompasses both practical and spiritual dimensions that our modern world has largely forgotten. Sleep is viewed not merely as biological necessity but as sacred time when the soul is freed from the immediate demands of physical existence to commune more directly with divine reality. Our woman enters this sacred time with the reverent awareness of someone who understands that sleep represents a form of daily death and resurrection that provides both physical restoration and spiritual renewal. The physical environment of medieval sleep creates conditions that naturally support deep rest and complete relaxation. The absence of artificial light allows her body to respond naturally to the circadian rhythms that have governed human sleep for countless generations. The slight coolness of the air encourages the lowering of body temperature that is essential for deep sleep, while the weight of woolen blankets provides the gentle pressure that signals to her nervous system that it is safe to completely relax and let go of conscious control. The complete darkness that surrounds our sleeping woman is more profound than anything most modern people ever experience. This darkness is not frightening but comforting, like returning to the protective embrace of the womb where life first began. In this darkness, her mind gradually releases its grip on the thoughts, worries, and plans that have occupied conscious awareness throughout the day, allowing consciousness to sink into deeper levels of rest where healing and restoration can occur naturally and completely. The sounds of the night create a gentle symphony that supports rather than disturbs the deepening sleep. The quiet breathing of family members sharing the sleeping space provides a rhythmic background that is both comforting and secure. The settling sounds of the wooden house as it cools from the day's warmth create a subtle percussion that speaks of safety and continuity. The distant calls of night birds and the whisper of wind through trees connect our sleeping woman to the larger natural world that continues its ancient rhythms even while human consciousness rests. The medieval woman's body, hardened by daily physical labor and accustomed to the demands of pre-industrial life, responds to sleep with the deep gratitude of muscles and joints that have carried her through another day of meaningful work. The accumulated fatigue in her shoulders from carrying water, in her hands from grinding grain, in her feet from walking on uneven surfaces, all of this physical tiredness becomes a blessing that facilitates the complete relaxation necessary for restorative sleep. The dreams that visit our sleeping woman reflect both the experiences of her daily life and the deeper spiritual currents that flow through medieval consciousness. She may dream of the tasks she has completed or the people she has encountered, but these surface images are woven together with deeper symbolic content that reflects her spiritual journey and her relationship to the divine presence that guides all existence. Medieval people understand dreams as potential messages from the spiritual realm, communications that may provide guidance, comfort, or insight into the deeper meaning of daily experience. The breathing that sustains our sleeping woman becomes slower and deeper as sleep progresses, reflecting the complete trust and surrender that characterizes healthy rest. Each breath draws in not only the oxygen that sustains physical life but also the divine spirit that enlivens all existence. Each exhalation releases not only carbon dioxide but also the tensions and concerns that could interfere with complete rest and restoration. This breathing becomes a form of unconscious prayer that maintains connection to divine presence even during the deepest levels of sleep. The physical processes of restoration that occur during sleep proceed according to natural rhythms that have sustained human life since the beginning of time. Our woman's body temperature drops to its lowest point, allowing for the conservation of energy that can be redirected toward healing and repair. Her heart rate slows to its most efficient rhythm, reducing the work required to maintain circulation while ensuring adequate blood flow to all organs and tissues. Her immune system becomes more active, working to repair any damage from the day's activities and to strengthen defenses against potential threats to health and well-being. The medieval understanding of time during sleep differs fundamentally from our modern approach to measuring temporal duration. There are no clocks to segment the night hours into precise intervals, no digital displays to create anxiety about how much sleep has been obtained or how much time remains before morning. Instead, time flows according to natural rhythms of rest and restoration, allowing sleep to proceed according to biological necessity rather than artificial scheduling constraints. The spiritual dimensions of deep sleep include not only the dreams that may carry divine messages but also the profound rest that allows the soul to be refreshed and renewed for tomorrow's opportunities to serve divine purposes. Our woman's spirit, freed from the immediate demands of conscious decision-making and problem-solving, can rest in direct awareness of divine love and protection. This spiritual rest provides the foundation for the emotional and mental clarity that will be necessary for meeting tomorrow's challenges with wisdom and grace. The medieval woman's trust in divine protection during the vulnerable hours of sleep reflects a mature faith that has been developed through years of experience with divine faithfulness and providence. She does not worry about what dangers might threaten during the night because she has learned to place her trust in the divine guardian who never sleeps and whose protection extends over all creation throughout all time. This trust creates the inner peace that is essential for deep sleep and that reflects spiritual maturity. The physical comfort of medieval sleep, while different from modern expectations, provides exactly what is needed for complete rest and restoration. The firm support of straw or feather mattresses allows proper alignment of the spine while conforming sufficiently to body contours to prevent pressure points that could interfere with circulation or comfort. The natural materials used in bedding, wool, linen, down, provide warmth without creating the artificial overheating that can disturb sleep quality. The shared warmth of family members sleeping in close proximity creates both physical comfort and emotional security that supports deeper levels of rest. The presence of loved ones provides protection against both external dangers and internal anxieties that might otherwise disturb sleep. This communal sleeping arrangement reflects the medieval understanding that human beings are fundamentally social creatures who thrive through cooperation and mutual support even during unconscious hours. As the night progresses through its natural phases, our medieval woman's sleep deepens and becomes more restorative. Her muscles completely relax, releasing the tensions accumulated through the day's work. Her mind processes the experiences and learning of the day, integrating new information with existing knowledge and strengthening the neural pathways that support skill development and wisdom. Her spirit rests in awareness of divine presence and love, receiving the spiritual nourishment that will sustain her through tomorrow's opportunities and challenges. The profound peace that characterizes deep medieval sleep reflects not only physical exhaustion after meaningful work but also spiritual satisfaction that comes from faithful completion of daily responsibilities and trust in divine providence. Our woman sleeps the sleep of the righteous, surrounded by love, protected by faith, and sustained by the same divine presence that will guide her through whatever tomorrow may bring. This sleep is not escape from life but preparation for life, not retreat from responsibility but gathering of strength for renewed service and love. In the deepest hours of the night, when darkness reaches its most profound embrace and silence wraps around our sleeping medieval woman like a protective cloak, the gentle process of natural awakening begins its slow, almost imperceptible movement toward the surface of consciousness. This awakening is not the jarring disruption of artificial alarms but the gradual, organic emergence from deep rest that has characterized human sleep patterns since the beginning of time. The first stirrings of consciousness occur not in response to external demands but as the natural result of restorative sleep that has accomplished its healing work. Our woman's body has completed its nightly cycle of repair and renewal, her mind has processed and integrated the experiences of the previous day, and her spirit has been refreshed through communion with divine presence during the vulnerable hours of unconscious rest. This completion creates a natural readiness for return to waking awareness that requires no external prompting or artificial stimulation. The quality of light that signals approaching dawn in medieval times is subtly different from the abrupt transition from darkness to artificial illumination that characterizes modern awakening. The first hint of morning light creeps slowly through wooden shutters and small windows, creating gradual changes in the darkness that allow consciousness to emerge slowly and naturally. This gentle illumination respects the natural rhythm of awakening and supports the transition from sleep to wakefulness without creating the stress and disorientation that can result from sudden exposure to bright light. The sounds that accompany natural awakening in the medieval world are themselves a form of gentle music that supports rather than disturbs the emerging consciousness. The first birds begin their tentative morning songs, creating a natural alarm clock that varies with the seasons and connects human awakening to the larger rhythms of the natural world. The quiet breathing of family members, the subtle settling sounds of the house, and perhaps the distant lowing of cattle waiting to be milked all contribute to an acoustic environment that draws consciousness gently upward from the depths of sleep. Our medieval woman's body responds to this natural awakening with the slow, luxurious stretching that allows muscles to lengthen after hours of rest and joints to prepare for another day of meaningful activity. There is no urgency in this awakening, no immediate pressure to leap into action or rush toward demanding responsibilities. Instead, there is time for the gradual transition that allows body, mind, and spirit to emerge together from the restorative experience of deep sleep. The air she breathes as consciousness returns carries the distinctive sense of medieval morning, with smoke from banked fires beginning to be rebuilt, the earthy aroma of thatched roofing and wooden walls, and the clean smell of morning air that has been refreshed by the cool temperatures of night. These scents create an olfactory environment that is both familiar and comforting, connecting our awakening woman to her physical environment while supporting the gentle return to full awareness. The physical sensations of awakening include the pleasant awareness of warmth beneath woolen blankets contrasted with the cool air on her face, the soft comfort of her sleeping surface after a night of complete rest, and the gradual return of sensation to hands and feet as circulation increases with returning consciousness. These sensations are not unpleasant but rather contribute to the overall sense of well-being and restoration that characterizes healthy awakening after sufficient rest. The mental clarity that emerges with natural awakening reflects the successful completion of the brain's nightly housekeeping activities, the consolidation of memories, the processing of emotional experiences, and the restoration of neurotransmitter balance that supports optimal cognitive function. Our woman awakens not with the grogginess that can result from artificial disruption of sleep cycles but with the clear awareness and emotional equilibrium that result from complete, undisturbed rest. The spiritual dimensions of this gentle awakening include a natural sense of gratitude for the gift of another day, thanksgiving for the protection and restoration experienced during the night hours, and growing awareness of divine presence that has sustained and guarded her throughout the period of vulnerability that sleep represents. This spiritual awakening proceeds parallel to physical and mental awakening, creating an integrated experience of renewal that prepares her for faithful participation in whatever opportunities the new day may bring. The medieval understanding of awakening encompasses both individual restoration and recommitment to community responsibilities and relationships. As our woman becomes more fully conscious, she becomes aware not only of her own renewed energy and clarity but also of the sleeping family members around her and the community needs that will soon require her attention and service. This awareness creates a natural bridge between personal restoration and social responsibility that characterizes mature spiritual development. The gradual return of memory and awareness brings with it not anxiety about coming challenges but peaceful confidence in her ability to meet whatever the day may bring. The rest she has received has not only restored her physical energy but also renewed her faith in divine providence and her commitment to faithful service regardless of circumstances. This confidence reflects not pride in her own abilities but trust in the divine assistance that is available to those who approach their responsibilities with humility and dedication. The transition from sleep to full wakefulness occurs according to natural timing that varies with seasonal changes, personal need, and family circumstances. There is no artificial schedule to impose urgency on this gentle process, no external demands that override the body's natural wisdom about optimal timing for emergence from rest. This respect for natural rhythm supports not only better health but also spiritual awareness that recognizes divine wisdom in the created order that governs all existence. As full consciousness gradually returns, our medieval woman finds herself surrounded by the evidence of divine faithfulness. She has been protected through another night, her family remains safe and whole, and the opportunity for another day of meaningful service stretches before her like an unwritten page waiting to be filled with acts of love, creativity, and faithful response to divine calling. This awareness creates not pressure or anxiety but grateful anticipation of the opportunities that await. The physical comfort of remaining in bed for a few additional moments allows for the gentle transition from unconscious rest to conscious preparation for activity. Our woman savors these transitional moments, neither rushing toward immediate action nor clinging to the passive comfort of sleep, but allowing the natural progression from rest to activity to unfold according to its own organic timing. This balanced approach to awakening reflects spiritual maturity that trusts divine timing and natural processes. The prayers that emerge spontaneously during these moments of gentle awakening are not formal recitations but heartfelt expressions of gratitude and trust that arise naturally from a soul refreshed by rest and renewed by divine grace. These prayers may be wordless acknowledgments of divine presence, simple expressions of thanksgiving for protection and restoration, or quiet petitions for guidance and strength for the coming day. Whatever their form, these prayers create spiritual preparation for faithful response to whatever opportunities for service and love the new day may bring. As the gentle process of awakening reaches its natural completion, our medieval woman finds herself fully present to the moment of transition between night's rest and day's activity. She is neither clinging to the comfort of sleep nor rushing anxiously toward coming responsibilities, but resting peacefully in the present moment where divine grace is always available and where each breath, each heartbeat, each gentle stirring of consciousness represents an opportunity for grateful response to the divine love that sustains all existence. In this sacred moment of complete awakening, surrounded by the love of family, supported by the stability of community, and embraced by divine presence that never leaves or fails, our medieval woman prepares to rise and begin another day of faithful service, creative response, and loving participation in the ongoing creation of a world where divine love can be experienced and expressed through countless small acts of faithfulness, kindness, and dedication to the well-being of all creation. The final moments of this gentle awakening are filled not with urgency or anxiety but with profound peace and grateful anticipation. She has rested well, she has been restored completely, and she is ready to offer herself once again to the sacred work of living with faith, hope, and love in a world that desperately needs the quiet witness of those who have learned to find divine presence in the midst of ordinary responsibilities and everyday opportunities for service and grace.